Hey dads, welcome to Father Friend, a podcast for dads who want to lean in, lead well, and love big. I'm Dr. Mike Ayers. In July 2024, Corey Comparator, a 50-year-old husband and father, attended a political rally in Butler, Pennsylvania with his wife Helen and their two daughters. During the event, a gunman opened fire targeting the President of the United States. As shots rang out, Corey instinctively threw himself over his wife and daughters, shielding them with his body. A stray bullet struck him, and he died at the scene, but his actions saved his family. Corey, a project engineer, was remembered by his community as a devoted family man and churchgoer who loved hunting and fishing. His daughter Allison later shared how her father's sacrifice saved her and her mother. She called him a true hero. Notice the father's instinct and will. Protect his wife and daughter. This kind of courage is what we're exploring today. Moms, of course, display their own form of courage and love. I mean, where would we be without the fortitude, bravery, strength, and dedication of our mothers? However, today, I want to highlight the distinctive role men have in our world and in the lives of their children, a role that has often been overlooked, redefined, and underappreciated. Today's episode is titled Men of Honor, in defense of courage, masculinity, and chivalry. In a time when traditional gender roles are frequently questioned, core values of masculinity, such as chivalry, bravery, and the instinct to protect, are still deeply important. These qualities are essential not only for men themselves, but also for fathers who are nurturing courage and integrity in the next generation. Such bravery is needed now and in the future. Really, two parts today. First, defining that which is innate in men, that is, how God wired us for this kind of courage. I want to celebrate and highlight the positive contributions of true masculinity and encourage you as a dad to embrace this part of your identity without hesitation or apology. Second, I want to discuss today the unique role of fathers, of men, in the lives of their children. So first, the question of that which is innate in men. What is it that makes a man a man? Well, in addition to their genetics and sex at birth, men have long been protectors, driven by a deep-seated sense of duty to defend the innocent, vulnerable, and defenseless. God put these traits within us. This role has been expressed in countless ways throughout history, illustrating the inborn connection between masculinity and courage. For example, on the tragic day of September 11, 2001, when terrorists struck the World Trade Center, resulting in 2,977 deaths, men died at a rate of 3-to-1 compared to women. Although many acts of bravery were performed by women on that day, a significant number of the men who lost their lives were first responders and ordinary individuals who ran toward danger to rescue others. 403 of the 406 first responder deaths were men. Now, I realize that the higher male death toll reflects the gender composition of first responders at the time, with men making up the overwhelming majority of firefighters, police, and EMS. Yes, that's true, but it doesn't undermine the courage of those men who ran towards the towers, not away from them, regardless of how many there were or their ratio to women. This kind of courage and masculinity deserves to be acknowledged and celebrated, not concealed. Where would the world be without the bravery of men to work hard, provide for family, be present for their kids, rescue others, protect, and fight our wars? One of the least visited memorials in Washington, D.C. is a waterfront statue commemorating the men who died on the Titanic. Maybe you didn't even know it exists. 74% of the women passengers survived the 1912 disaster, while 80% of the men perished. Why? Because the men followed the principle, women and children first. The monument, an 18-foot granite male figure with arms outstretched to the side, was erected by, quote, the women of America in 1931 to show their gratitude. The inscription reads, "To the brave men who perished in the wreck of the Titanic, April 15, 1912. They gave their lives that women and children might be saved." Let's not apologize nor minimize the sense of bravery and sacrifice that men uniquely bring to our world. Let's also be sure to pass on to our children what real men look like, individuals of courage, humility, authenticity, endurance, and sacrifice, which leads to the second perspective, the role of fathers to children. Fathers play a pivotal role in reflecting and transmitting the values of masculinity, chivalry, and bravery to their children. This is important for both sons and daughters to see. Why? Well, our sons will grow up to emulate the masculinity they respect in their father. Our daughters will grow up desiring to marry a man who embodies the masculinity that is honorable in their father. This kind of masculinity and courage can best be described as selflessness. It's not about lacking power or strength, but about using power and strength for the sake of others. A 2019 research article called The Impact of Paternal Selflessness on Child Emotional Stability in the Journal of Family Psychology investigated the relationship between paternal selflessness, defined as fathers prioritizing their children's and families' needs over their own personal interests, and the emotional stability of children ages 6 to 12. The study found a significant positive correlation between paternal selflessness and improved child emotional stability. Children with selfless fathers exhibited lower anxiety levels and higher self-esteem scores compared to the control group. True power isn't control, it's influence. True strength isn't dominance, it's sacrifice. This blend of power, courage, and strength, guided by humility and selflessness, was perfectly exemplified by Jesus Christ, a true man's man. And by the way, pet peeve time. You've probably noticed how many paintings depict Jesus as delicate or physically frail. But consider this. Jesus was a carpenter's son and worked as a carpenter himself for all those years before beginning his public ministry at age 30. Have you ever met a 30-year-old carpenter who's frail? It's hard to imagine. Jesus' work would have made him strong and rugged, far from the meek figure often portrayed in art. But I digress. What truly defined Jesus' masculinity was not his physique, though I think quite formidable. It was his steadfast dedication to a mission that required him to sacrifice himself for others, a commitment that ultimately led to his death on the cross for the sins of the world. This is the ultimate model of manhood. Along the way, his mission was marked by countless smaller acts of heroism, moments of kindness, healing the broken, speaking truth without fear, standing firm against compromise, and confronting his critics with resolve. So, while courage and masculinity stem from a greater calling, they don't always have to manifest in grand, dramatic ways. True heroism often shines through in the everyday moments, those quiet, consistent acts of love and integrity that reflect a man's selfless heart for his family. When Rory McIlroy recently lifted the 2025 Masters Tournament trophy, which completed his career Grand Slam and the 5th major championship to his name, it wasn't just a victory for him. It was a quiet, powerful triumph in gratitude to his father, Jerry. Decades earlier, in a small town in Northern Ireland, Jerry saw something in his young son, not just talent, but passion. And like so many great fathers, he made a decision to quietly go all in. Working multiple jobs as a bartender and cleaning facilities, often at night, Jerry and his wife Rosie sacrificed to give Rory every opportunity to chase a dream that at the time seemed unreachable. They weren't rich, they didn't have connections, but Jerry had something far more powerful: courageous vision, quiet strength, and unwavering belief in his son. He'd driven to countless tournaments, paid for endless lessons, and encouraged Rory when no one else was watching. That kind of fatherhood is often invisible. It doesn't post online, it doesn't brag, it sacrifices in silence, but it shows up, and it builds something greater than success. It builds children into strong men and women. When Rory won his first major, reporters asked him what it meant. He smiled and simply said, "My dad sacrificed everything so I could do this. I hope I've made him proud." So Jerry did this for his son, not for recognition, not for reward, but because that's what servant-hearted fathers do. They carry the weight so their kids can fly. So when we think about masculinity and fatherhood or leadership, we tend to think of power, title, and authority, don't we? I mean, real men exercise power. Well, I agree, but it's not wielded for the purpose of proving power or having control. It's how power is expressed that makes the difference. Men are so misguided when it comes to understanding this. There's a vital distinction every father must understand if he wants to lead with lasting impact and display true masculinity, what I call the difference between positional leadership and personal leadership. Positional leadership is about authority. It's leadership granted by role, title, or function. It says, "I'm in charge." In fatherhood, this kind of leadership begins the moment your child is born. You are, by definition, their father. And with that comes legitimate authority and responsibility. You set the rules. You enforce consequences. You establish structure and expectations. We don't apologize for that. In the early years, that kind of leadership is essential. Children need clear boundaries and direction. They need someone bigger, stronger, and wiser to guide and protect them. But here's the hard truth. Positional leadership alone won't build legacy. That's where personal leadership comes in. Personal leadership flows not from authority, but from character. It's not demanded, it's earned. It's rooted in trust, credibility, and consistent example. While positional leadership often relies on fear of consequences, personal leadership inspires through love, consistency, and sacrifice. For example, I'm a father of 3, and I'll be honest, there have been seasons where I lean too heavy on positional leadership. The words, "because I said so," gets short-term compliance. But if my kids only follow my lead because I hold the title of dad, then I've missed the bigger calling. That kind of authority ends the day they leave my house. But personal leadership, the kind that's built through years of modeling, serving, loving, and sacrificing, that's the kind of influence they can follow for a lifetime. Positional leadership may change behavior. Personal leadership transforms hearts. And if we want to raise strong, courageous sons and daughters, we must lead them not just with authority, but with authenticity. We must show them the kind of life we hope they'll live. We must embody the values we want them to carry. We must model humility, resilience, faith, conviction, and sacrificial love. This is the very heart of biblical masculinity and servant leadership. Jesus, as described in Philippians 2, had all authority, but used it to kneel, to wash feet, to die in our place. And Paul echoes this in 1 Thessalonians 2, describing leadership that is like a nurturing mother and a devoted father, tender, consistent, and invested. This is leadership as God intended, when those who hold the right to lead through title also earn the right to lead through trust. Let me say that again. When those who hold the right to lead through title also earn the right to lead through trust. When strength is used not to dominate, but to lift. When courage is not loud, but sacrificial. Men, your title gives you a platform, but your character gives you influence. Use both. Be the kind of father whose leadership doesn't end when your kids leave the house. Be the kind of man whose example still echoes in their hearts years from now. And your greatest legacy as a man won't come from your position. It'll come from who you choose to be to your kids. In our vernacular, what Jesus did, what Paul did, what Rory's father did, is servant leadership. So what does servant leadership look like in the life of a father? What does personal leadership look like? Well, first, servant leader dads are willing to carry the load. They're willing to do unglamorous work without applause or recognition, showing up early, staying up late, putting their kids' needs above their own. It's not heroic in the world's eyes, but to a child, it's everything. And over time, those unseen acts become the foundation of trust and security. Secondly, servant leader dads choose presence over power. They understand the difference between control and influence. They're not the same. Instead of demanding respect through force or fear, they earn it through consistency, humility, and love. Their strength is measured not in how loud they are, but in how available they are, in the moments that seem small but mean everything to a child. Power may impress, but presence transforms. Servant leader dads know that. And third, servant leader dads give their strength so their kids can grow into theirs. They serve their kids by equipping, empowering, and encouraging them. Like Christ, who gave his life so others could live, servant-hearted dads create space and opportunity for their children to rise. It takes strength to step back, wisdom to let go, and courage to cheer from behind the scenes. That's the kind of fatherhood, that's the kind of manhood the world needs more of. So we can not only pass down the character of selflessness to our kids, but also by exemplifying true positive masculinity, we can provide our kids with important lessons in courage and responsibility. Here are 4 of those lessons. First, when dads say, "I know you're afraid and it's tough, but do not quit." Fathers serve as crucial role models for their children. By demonstrating bravery and chivalry in the small actions of everyday life, fathers provide tangible examples of how children can confront challenges with courage. This involves facing personal and professional difficulties with resilience, making difficult decisions, and showing respect and care for others. For instance, a father who navigates work-related stress or personal hardship with determination and integrity shows his children that life doesn't always go smoothly, but strength shows up in how we respond. And when that same father keeps showing up with love for his family, even when exhausted or discouraged, his kids see something that no lecture could ever teach. It's in those moments that he models something sacred. Real courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply refuses to quit. A dad who leads like that teaches his children that endurance, not ease, builds greatness. Secondly, when dads say to their kids, push past your fear. Modern masculinity recognizes that emotional bravery is as important as physical bravery. Encouraging children to take risk and engage in problem solving is essential for building confidence and grit. Fathers can support this by allowing their children to face challenges that stretch their boundaries and by stepping back to let them struggle a bit. That communicates something deeper than words. It communicates, you're capable. For instance, if a child wants to audition, compete, lead, or try something big and uncertain, a courageous dad doesn't push them toward safety, he pushes them toward growth. He helps them see that fear isn't a signal to stop, it's a signal that something meaningful is ahead. And yes, it might go badly, but if it does, they'll survive and they'll be stronger for it. If you shield your kids from failure, keep them comfortable, and never let them take risk, don't be surprised when they never step into their full potential. They won't just doubt their strength. They may never discover how strong they actually are. Thirdly, when dads say, we defend the innocent and defenseless, we oppose injustice. Moral courage is the kind of bravery that refuses to look away when something is wrong. It's easy to stand up for yourself. It takes something deeper to stand up for someone else. Moral courage involves standing up for what is right, even in the face of opposition or difficulty. This is what men do. Fathers can instill this quality by discussing ethical dilemmas, demonstrating principled behavior, and encouraging their children to act with integrity. By making decisions based on values and advocating for justice, fathers teach their children that true bravery includes moral fortitude. Fathers build this kind of courage in their children by living out conviction, not by preaching it, but by practicing it. When kids see their dad tell the truth, protect the vulnerable, apologize when he's wrong, or call out what's wrong even when it's unpopular, they learn that bravery isn't just brawn, it's backbone. For example, if a father witnesses an injustice and takes a stand, or he speaks when others stay silent, he models moral courage for his children. This behavior reinforces the idea that bravery involves not just overcoming personal challenges, but also standing up for others. Masculine strength is never silent in the face of evil. It steps in and steps up. And the fourth lesson in courage is when dads say to their kids, I believe in you, you can do this. There may be no greater transfer of courage than this, when a child hears their father speak belief into them. Those words aren't just encouraging, they're foundational. A dad's voice is powerful. When he speaks life into his child, it becomes the soundtrack playing in that child's head long after the moment has passed. When he says, I know this is hard, but I believe in you, something happens in their spirit. They start to believe it too. And if they fall down or fail, masculine fathers tell their kids to get back up and try again. This doesn't mean pushing too far. This doesn't mean false praise or participation trophies. It means calling out real effort, growth, and courage, even when the outcome doesn't look perfect. When you believe in your child out loud, you give them the courage to believe in themselves. And that's how brave men and women are built, not through easy wins, not through quitting, but through hard battles fought with someone in their corner saying, you've got this. The overarching message is clear. Men need to be men. I'm not saying all men have to be the stereotypical alpha male, although that's not necessarily a negative trait. I'm not talking about egotistical or authoritarian men who demand unwavering allegiance, a man who has to be dominant and domineering. That's not masculinity. I'm not suggesting a return to caveman behaviors. Instead, I'm highlighting the value of men and fathers who embody positive masculinity, those who are ready to protect, defend, provide for, and sacrifice for what's good and right in the world, particularly for women and children. So again, men of honor are strong, but they are also selfless. They embody servant leadership. They go beyond positional command to express personal influence. In the family, this means the needs of the wife and the children go first. Dad goes last. Let me share with you one more story of unique bravery, chivalry, and masculinity that men bring to our world. In October 2022, Daniel O'Neill, a 34-year-old construction worker from Louisville, Kentucky, was driving home when he saw a house engulfed in flames. Inside were a single mother, Sarah Jenkins, and her 5-year-old son trapped on the second floor with no way out. Without hesitation, Daniel pulled over, ran into the burning home, and climbed the smoke-filled stairs. He found Sarah and her son huddled in a bedroom, struggling to breathe. With flames spreading fast, he scooped up the boy in his arms and guided Sarah down the staircase, shielding them from the falling debris. He got them safely outside, but as he turned back to check for others, a collapsing beam struck him, pinning him beneath the rubble. Despite the efforts of firefighters, Daniel succumbed to his injuries. Sarah and her son survived with only minor injuries, and Daniel's heroic act was praised across the community as selfless sacrifice, one that cost him everything, yet saved a family's future. This story, based on local news reports and community tributes, reminds us men like Daniel still walk among us. Let's pray this kind of courage, this kind of masculine strength and sacrificial love never disappears from our world. Dads, be men. Be men of courage, chivalry, and true masculinity. Thanks for listening today. I'm Dr. Mike Ayers. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with other dads. I'd love to hear from you. Email me at mikea@fatherfriend.net with comments, questions, and your biggest takeaways. For more tools, resources, and real talk on fatherhood, visit fatherfriend.net or follow on social media @ThinkingDads. See you next time.